As far as Monday, it was announced that County has and I already decided how we were going to be closed the public because I thought it was safe to keep my guys involved. As far as getting the baseline back, just for me personally, I think won't be too difficult because we were planning a lot of things. You know, we had a full release calendar, and I'm still trying to move that needle as much as I can to try to keep up with what are we going to do when it's time that we can go back out and do things like influence the grocery stores, get those case stacks in, sell the kegs in. Bars will reopen, not all of them, but I can tell you that I'm sure there's enough people who actually develop and open concepts on a regular basis who will find money, whether they borrow it, low, SBA, whatever. They're going to open a concept. They may even take over somebody who couldn't make it because they've been eyeing it forever, and they're going to go and capitalize on that. So there will be customers. And so that I think will allow us to be pretty aggressive with getting it back. I think people will be going out more. I think they have been around their children for a long time if they've got them. And the bummer is you're going right into summer, and now they're going to have them all summer too. And so they're going to be looking for anything to do to get them to go outside. So I think that they will be wanting that. I think a lot of people really want that human interaction again. As an introvert, I do enjoy it, but I'm also really cool with me just sitting there with with a controller that I'm fixing. Like, I'm good either way. But the vast majority of people do like some human interaction. I do too. And so, being able to go into a grocery store whenever you want and not have to worry about a line or getting sick, I think that will be so refreshing that people are going to bombard those places, bars, restaurants, things like that, because they're very excited that they can again. The access to it. People love selection. Look at Amazon. It's got however many items on it because people love options. And so that coming back, we'll bring it back. The downside is for breweries who maybe just opened, who aren't in market much, or who are struggling from the get-go to keep shelf space in grocery stores or things like that, I think it will be challenging. Depending upon how it's financed, this is getting more into the business. Any business that's over-leveraged is going to have a really tough time coming out of this if they didn't have a decent revenue stream or proper backers. I'm not going to say that we're going to take some advantage of some of these awesome federal programs they put out. Why not? It's going to help us get through it, and they're giving great loans. And if it can do things like pay my people and pay my utilities, absolutely. If they're going to be giving it away, I would be a chump not to, right? That being said, even with that, you can't just rely on that to keep your doors open, right? That's only meant to be kind of a Band-Aid. So it depends how long it goes. But that is, I think, one of the big challenges about coming back. I do believe that we'll come back. I do believe, hey, people are supporting us now. We've got to-go orders from here. People love coming out to the brewery. Getting that business back will help significantly. And we've got some new additions planned that we're going to be working on. Not while this is going on. It's not a good time to spend that kind of money. But once that all happens, I think it really can be an even more robust business than before. So you're always planning on what are you going to do next, and how do we change what we do to make it better and bring in more business and make it more fun, new beers, new things. So if you're not spending this time thinking and planning about what you could be doing, I think you're going to miss the boat. I can tell you, for me personally, I've had a lot more time to think, because normally I'm running around here doing all the production myself. And so I don't have time to just sit and think about where I want stuff to go and all that. So I've spent a lot of time doing that. I'm very happy being able to do that. I don't like the reason why, but I'm not going to sit here and pout about it. So what can I do? Well, I can think about what we can do next. What other cool stuff weird ideas I've had that I've never been able to really solidify. Let me put them down on paper and really look at what that looks like. Does that make sense? And I think some of those things that we've come up with, if we can go and execute them correctly, which I believe we can, is really going to be awesome.
The psychological effects of this virus, it's silent, you can't see it. It affects everybody. So I think psychologically, until we can get over the fact, I don't necessarily know if you need a vaccine, but you certainly need some antibodies that allow people to feel safe going to venues, games, bars. I don't know how many bars and restaurants can function at half capacity. As we move to half capacity, I think the other thing no one even thinks about, once they turn this on, whether it's in 30, 60, or 90 days, there's going to be another 30 or 60, 90 days behind that on changing the consumer's behavior. So, I mean, it's going to take a while, I think, psychologically to get where we need to. The underlying economy was fantastic, before this thing happened. So, it's kind of a black swan event. So I think we can get back into a hockey stick formation on the recovery if we all feel comfortable with the fact you're not going to die. But yeah, I mean, it seems like for every week the restaurant stays closed, it's almost like a month they have to crawl out of the hole with their overhead costs, rent, and all the stuff that goes along with it. So I just hope everyone continues to work together. I mean, so there's a cascade effect across all of the economy. And if everyone works, landlords, tenants, to the commercial side, to the banking, if they work with the consumers over time to kind of ease them back without, them having to, sell everything they have, I think we can get back where we were. No, it is. I mean, yeah, if you're not controlling your business expenses and you're, not being a good steward of your money and you put yourself in a bad spot, that's different than just getting wiped out and the government saying you cannot open. You cannot sell beer, you cannot sell food. That's crazy. It's never happened in the history of the country. I mean, we're actually living in a unprecedented time that really no one has exact answers. It's going to kind of unfold as it's going to unfold, but I think the main thing is for everybody to stick together. Small businesses, supporting small businesses, we're going to get through it.
So, government help. So here's an interesting factoid. We applied for PPP, right? The Payroll Protection Program. Submitted all of our information a week ago. Haven't heard a single thing. Zero, nothing. But I know that Bank of America submitted for $10 billion and they got approved. So at the end of the day, was this whole program smoke and mirrors just to keep the mass population, all the business owners feeling like they're included in the equation? Or is there really some meat to it and small business owners like myself is actually going to get the benefit from it? I don't think we are. Honest to God, I don't think I'll ever see a penny out of the government in any form of a loan that is in that 0 to 3% interest rate range that they're on. When it was the financial markets, it was the top portion of the pyramid that made up the American economy. This time, it's the base of the economy that's been cut, right? Because it's the bars and restaurants, and it's all of those consumer services that exist in the marketplace. It's not the white collar jobs. The white collar jobs are what they're saying. We've got to keep at all costs. And oh, by the way, you can work from home and you don't lose your job. You're not getting pay cuts. So this time, the whole financial paradigm has been flipped, right? So the base has been wiped out, and that's why you have gigantic unemployment numbers, right? But that also implies that all these bars and restaurants and all the retail segment, everything never comes back. But we just know that not to be the case, right? So conservative estimates said you get 50% of these people back within a year. You get probably 75% back in 2 to maybe 3 years. I know corporate America, they're looking at this and they're saying, this is a perfect opportunity for us to trim the fat and to cut back and just hoard money going forward. And so, all these things are in play, and they have to, that's what, in my mind, eventually we get back to a norm. Eventually, fingers crossed, vaccination or some kind of pharmaceutical solution comes into play. Maybe they figure out like, okay, you've had it, you're healthy, go back to the office, go back to work, go back to doing whatever you're doing. And then it becomes a race for finding all the healthy, clean people to come in and work at your job, right? So the machine will get fired back up again. It has. Historically, this has always happened. I mean, this has happened before, and historically it gets fired up and we get back on track. It really, the one thing that is going to come out of this too, which is quite interesting, is now America is going to pull all their manufacturing back into America. Because when you're looking at stuff coming in from international waters, and it's trying to deliver here in America, and you've got shortages of foreign-made product here in America, and people still need to keep going, they're going to bring manufacturing back. Our economic base is very well diversified, more so today than it was even 10 years ago, definitely more than it was 20 years ago.
I don't think anyone really knows what the world looks like on the other end of this thing, because we don't know when it's going to end. The problem about a lot of this is the uncertainty, because you don't know how life's going to be in 2 weeks, and you certainly don't know how life's going to be in a month or 6 weeks. So it's hard to gauge all those things. But I know for us and everyone, we're checking our phones to make sure we're, did we get an SBA loan? Did we get that, the government help? The city of Katy's really come out for us hard through this drive-through, and just the people are coming from Port Arthur to buy cases of beer, and it's wild. And there's certainly a trend of, or this message of, we want you guys to be here on the other end, so we're willing to stack a bunch of beer in our living room. And that is incredibly heartwarming, and it's awesome. At the same time, we know the longer this goes, the tighter people's pocketbooks are inevitably gonna be. We haven't furloughed anyone yet. You haven't reduced anyone's pay yet. All of our people are still here, but it's definitely, the longer it goes on, the harder it gets. I mean, every day is problem solving 101. So, and whenever we do hit this peak and take this turn, I imagine it will also be a slow, gradual rollback to normalcy, which at least it would be a step in the right direction. I mean, the problem right now is we don't know what's ahead of us, and that, it's scary as hell. We have a few people on our staff that have newborn children, and there's this look in their eyes, and some will have come to us directly on, am I gonna have payroll for 2 weeks? And it's yes for 2 weeks. I'll let you know after that. We're working on. I mean, it's every day is a battle, and it's incredibly heartbreaking. But only in these times do you come together and figure out how to get through them. It's tough because as a business owner, you want to mitigate the risk of this virus so you can move on past it. At the same time, as long as rent is due, as long as utilities are due, you still have to bring in some amount of income, unless these things were forgiven, and all of a sudden payroll was immediately paid for. You still have to find a way to keep on going on, and it's all right, we're only gonna have 2 people per shift, and we're gonna limit people on one side of the building or people on the other. You're trying to do what's socially responsible, but at the same time, you're trying to keep everyone afloat and trying to make sure that everyone is on the other end of this. And it is this moral fiscal quandary every day, like in your head, and it's gut wrenching, really. And then especially when you talk to other people and in other situations that are much worse, and it's sad, it's frustrating, it's to some point necessary. But it breaks my heart.
Yeah, look, it is a big question. It's all encompassing. We could go on for hours, but I think first and foremost, Platypus is here to stay. That's something that the partners and I, we've sat down, we've gone through the scenarios, and it's something that we're very confident about. So what does it mean for us to get back on the even footing for where we were or where we want to be? I mean, ultimately, it's working capital, right? So it's 2 things. It's working capital, and it's enabling the consumers to come out and enjoy the reason they come here in the first place. They want to enjoy the atmosphere. They want that direct engagement with the brewery. So there's a couple of enablers there that need to happen. Now, a quick shout out to, on the working capital side, a quick shout out to some of our business partners, including landlords and banks and other things. They've been incredibly understanding, and I'm not sure, maybe people understand that, maybe they don't. But here we are several weeks in, and we just wouldn't be here, we wouldn't even be having this interview if not for the understanding and the cooperation of some of our business partners. So, shout out to them for really helping us. What does that mean on a sustainable basis? It's ultimately going to mean access to funds prior to the reopen, whenever that might be, the business planning associated with that reopen, and making sure that when consumers are able to get out and about again, that they do continue, as they have, continue to support their local businesses. If they come out in droves, everyone's going to be just having a great time, whether it's here at Platypus or some of our other fantastic friends in the industry, just putting on a good show for them in giving them the service, giving them the quality that they expect. I think that on a sustainable basis over the next 3 to 4 months post all of this craziness will really help us get back to where we are. So, and I must admit, I'm not a political person. I'm not a political person at all. But you got to hold your head high in this country right now of what's going on in terms of federal, state and local assistance and their willingness, whether it's slow or fast, but at least their willingness to get businesses such as mine back up and running, because they understand the importance to the overall economy. And I think that in itself, we're always cynical on politics, but I think it's a fairly shining moment at the moment at all levels of government. Yeah, look, from what we've seen in the local community, we've seen it both in this crisis, but we've also seen it in previous crises, including the horrible hurricanes and floodings and everything that we have here in this great town, great city. Consistently, the Houston community backs up with its support, and we're seeing that also in these times. And we hope that continues. And I tell you what, it's you got to get up each day and slog it back out here in the brewery and make ends meet. It's a shining light to know that your community is supporting you.
We miss you, and we want to be with you again in this place, everyone together.
This is